Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 183. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011, usually live every Sunday, but you can drop a follow over there, get notified when we go live. You can join in the chat, join in the discussion, join in all the fun chaos as we record. But if you can't catch live, that's a-okay, and go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video in MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. What are we talking about today? We're talking about video games. We're talking about Cyberpunk 2077 as I finally got to try it out, and we're going to be talking about MK1. Did I almost say Mortal Kombat 11? Yes, I did. Mortal Kombat 1, because we got quite a few updates since the last time we talked about it. So let's dive into Cyberpunk. Wow, it's green screened out. Ooh, sorry. Yellow, green, I don't know. Finally got to dive into Cyberpunk. Decided to give it a try after finding a very cheap copy at Forgotten Freshness. Shout out to them. So yeah, decided to dive into it this week. Give it a shot, give it a try, see what it was all about. I know it's been out for a few years. I know that launch was a bit shaky, but right now it seems great, and was intrigued to try out the story. So if you guys don't know about Cyberpunk, this is the same developers, CD Projekt Red, as the developers of the Witcher games. So you can expect grand worlds, lots of things to do, interesting characters, and Cyberpunk definitely has that in bulk. And as we talked about, when it officially launched, when did this launch? 2020? Ooh, good times, 2020. Oh, wait. Unfortunately, there was a lot of bugs with the game, especially on previous gen consoles, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and things didn't run super duper great, so they got a lot of flack for it at the beginning. But they have proven their dedication to the game and really poured their hearts and souls into fixing everything and making adjustments, and eventually obviously adding additional story content with, I believe, Phantom Liberty, which comes out next month, 2 months. And yeah, I finally delved into it a little bit. I was kind of a mixed bag when they announced it. Now, my experience with CD Projekt is minimal at best. I've tried Witcher 3 a little bit. It is definitely something I need to go back into. At the time when I was playing it, it felt like a lot of information at once. Granted, a lot of open world games have this problem, or not problem, can have this barrier of entry where a player looks at the map and a plethora of items just happen to show up. Obviously, they're not all things you have to do for the main quest, but there's side quests, there's characters to talk to, there's mini games to do. And when I was playing Witcher, just at that point, that overwhelmed me. There was that level, and then there was the level of in Witcher, when you're tackling or fighting different monsters, it seemed like you had like an encyclopedia, and I'm sure players of The Witcher will know better than better things or have more knowledge on this subject than I will, as someone looking out just on the outskirts. But it seemed like you had an encyclopedia of what the beasts were weak to, what you needed to use, this type of weapon with this type of enhancement, this type of magic, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure if it was something like you had to follow to the T, where if you had, I don't know if this is even a monster in there, so just deal with me, this is just an example, a wyvern, and you're like, oh, well, I have to use this fire spell with this sword, blah, 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 or this thing on the sword. I don't know if you had to follow those things to a T, or if you had the flexibility of just tackling how you wanted to. Obviously, it would just be a little bit more of a challenge if you didn't use those tools to your advantage. At the point when I had played Witcher 3 or started it, wasn't my bag, was not something I was ready to dive into, and was more intimidating in terms of the scale of things. So when Cyberpunk was announced, I loved the trailer. I thought the trailer and the announcements were really cool. It's this future techno world, 2077. Future world. It's a first person. It's a shooter, and it has my boy Keanu Reeves in it. And obviously everybody remembers, Keanu up on stage, "No, you're amazing," or whatever it was. That moment at Game Awards, Summer E3, wherever is announced, I don't remember. But it seemed like it was a little bit different in terms of, obviously, the sword and third-person perspective of Witcher. So I was a little bit intrigued in that, but over time, my excitement kind of waned. Obviously, with the initial launch and all the news there, I was like, oh, maybe this isn't something for me, or this is something to wait on, which I did. And after hearing about, once again, the TLC the game got afterwards and fixing stuff, and making sure things worked and got things to the state they were supposed to be on, or rather intended to be on with the launch, and hearing people's reactions to the game, and actually the story's really good and the gameplay's good, I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try if and when I see a cheap copy or whatever. Excuse me. So, want something different in terms of games now. It was able to happen on a copy, so I decided to try it. And I'm a mixed bag so far with my experience with Cyberpunk. And I think it's more just that I don't know what exactly the terminology would be, but the beginning act, the first act, seems to be, if I'm going to liken this to like a Bloodborne or a Sekiro or a Dark Souls, when you get to the first boss in those games, I've heard a lot of players who play the Soulsborne games where like, this is your barrier of entry. I think that's the terminology I want. Where if you can, quote unquote, put up with it, or if you can conquer this obstacle of the first boss, you're in. You know that it is an attainable thing that you can do. It is an accomplishable thing you could do. And from there, it is not smooth sailing. Obviously, you're still going to run into challenges along the way, but you're more likely to continue after that point because you've already seen what the game has to offer. The struggles, the challenges, the rewards from it. And then from there, you play on. In Cyberpunk, I feel that the first act is that for Cyberpunk is the same likelihood or same example. Man. And the reason I think this is, I'm going to try not to spoil anything just in case anybody hasn't delved into it and wants to themselves, is the story in that first act, in my opinion, was very confusing and loose is the only word that's coming to mind, but it wasn't super organized. Now, when you start up Cyberpunk, they have a very extensive character creator, so you have the fun and freedom of that, if that's your thing. You can make a character and, kind of see how they look, how much cybernetic enhancement they appear to have, all that jazz. And you get to pick a background. There's 3. There's a nomad, which is what I picked, which they each give you a different backstory. I don't know if they really affect your gameplay or what this story is going to entail. I think it only may affect some dialogue options that you have in the game. So there's Nomad. There was like a thug or like a what's the term? Like a gang member, and then there was like a higher up office, like corporation type level. So you do an initial mission, which this one I will spoil because there's not too much into it. You do an initial mission where you are smuggling something into Night City, your main area that you're going to be in this title. You're smuggling an item in with another person, and you go in, you negotiate how you're going to get in and get past the border patrol, and you get past them, but then border patrol six the police after you. They're like, you have illegal substances, blah blah blah. Turns into a car chase, and you're trying to get away from them. And after that, you and the other individual who have met for the first time decide, you know what, we're cool, ride or die, let's work together, whatever. And you get this montage of, I think it's the next 6 months to a year of what their life is in Night City. And for me, the player, it just seemed like, oh, a lot of cool stuff happened. Like, you see them do different jobs, you see them upgrade their lifestyle and kind of get acclimated to the city, meet a bunch of different characters and cool looking individuals that help them out with certain stuff. And I'm like, why am I just seeing all this and not experiencing it? And that was kind of a negative for me. So when they spit you back into the game, you jump in at that point where it's 6 months to a year later. Granted, once again, I'm sorry, I don't know the exact timeline. You jump in with the character at this point and you're established in the city going for your next mission. And for me, I was just like, I don't know any of these characters that I saw quickly in this vignette montage. Should I have a connection with them, or how do you expect me to have a connection with them? You get a few more interactions, obviously, with these characters as you go, but at points where the story hits a little harder, you're having these deeper talks and discussions with these characters, and for me, I'm like, there's a disconnect just because I don't know or have a history with this character where it doesn't deliver to me those same feelings I would feel as a character that I've been with since the start, or at least have some kind of formative or relationship built along the way. This felt like the character obviously in game has that, but me, the user, I don't have that, and I'm just like, okay, I don't have the emotional attachment that I feel I should. So that's one hang up. After this, though, the story or the mission you take on, to me was another one of confusion and like disconnect. Granted, it could be something I'm doing wrong in terms of how I'm engaging with it and my understanding of the game, but it didn't really kick into me until after that first mission. Once again, I'm not going to delve too deep in other than that intro, just in case. But after that, and once I entered Act 2, that's where I'm like, oh, I'm really hooked now into this story and figuring out what's going on post the events of what I just had gone through. And I'm sure if you've played it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that first initial mission, post the intro of before vignette, very confusing. I don't know if it was verbiage. I don't know if it was explanation of the game not fully telling me what was going on or what I should be doing, like if I should be doing side stuff. That what was a little confusing to me in terms of direction. I just felt like I was going through the motions, and that sounds bad for me to say. So I think after getting past that point, like I am more intrigued in the story than I was before. But thank God that moment of clicking happened to that Act 1 to Act 2 transition, because I think this might have been a game where I just stopped, where I was like, I get it, it looks pretty, the world is vast, but I don't know what to do. I don't know if this is like a GTA where I'm supposed to just go around and have fun with this, or if there is a point-to-point direct storyline. And now getting the information, or at least the setup to start Act 2, I feel a little bit more of like, okay, I know what the character's motivations are. I know what I'm trying to achieve, and I hope that can continue forward. Speaking on that, I mentioned earlier with Witcher, they have a lot of side things to do. Apparently this game is going to also have those side activities, which I've done a few. Like sometimes you stop cyber enhanced, because it's the future, everybody's got these enhancements, but like people who are doing real bad crimes, cyber terrorists or something like that, I think what they call them. So you can stop them, earn street cred, and then you can do different errands for people who are like against or wanted by the police and stuff like that, trying to help them out. But apparently in the story, if I'm able to trust PlayStation's tracking of the story, apparently I'm like 20%, if not more, already through the story. I'm like, oh, all right, I thought this was a little longer. Granted, I've put 7 hours into it. Maybe it just didn't feel like it was that long. But I digress. Just a little surprised by that. I thought it would have been a longer main story campaign, just knowing the expanse these games have. I thought it'd been one of those ones that takes forever, but maybe it's just all the side stuff kind of makes up for those other areas. Not that side stuff isn't important. We've seen that in other games like God of War, for example. Like, side stuff is great, builds on characters, etc. Time will tell. I was just personally a little surprised by that. I was like, oh, kind of made more progress in the main story than I felt I had. So, would I recommend Cyberpunk? I mean, granted, it's been a few years, so you can find a cheap copy. Great. Also, if you are planning on getting it and you have a next-gen console, like a PlayStation 5, like me, get the PlayStation 4 version and you have a free upgrade. Also, this is cheaper. Do a free upgrade. I downloaded a free upgrade for the PS5 version, so it runs a little smoother there. Only paid $10 for this one. And yeah, you get the higher res and all that jazz. I think it's interesting. I don't know if I could give a fair shake of like, yeah, you should play this. No, you shouldn't. I will say, once the story kicks in, intriguing. Might not be everybody's cup of tea with the vast world, open world, etc. But for right now, I'd give if you find it cheap. If you find it cheap somewhere and you kind of had like an inkling of interest, yeah, sure, give it a try. Phantom Liberty looks great, which is the add-on DLC story they got coming out. It's got Idris Elba in it. Apparently it's taking place like somewhere in the middle to later stages of the story, so it fits in there. It's just more side plot, I guess, with another character or side character that you run into. So there's that. Just kind of adds to the experience. So you can check that out if you want to. But yeah, so we're going to talk about that for a little bit. Sticking to games, let's talk about Mortal Kombat 1, because we got some updates with that. I think last time we talked, we just kind of talked about initial release. Maybe it was the story trailer. I don't remember. So there's been quite a few announcements on Mortal Kombat since then. We got some new characters, we got some new cameos, we got some new trailers. And as of recording yesterday, surprisingly enough, oh, this person's lovely. You got a little spreadsheet of everything for me. Thanks, Real Realmcast or whatever. As of yesterday, we got 2 more announcements for characters. We have a returning character in Garrus, and then there's a Darius. Yes, Darius is being a cameo character. Very surprised to see Garrus return. I mean, it kind of makes sense with the whole time mechanic. If you don't know Garrus, he was in MK1. He was, what was her name? Chronica. Chronica's like right-hand man muscle. But he comes, we get kind of like a little bit more of a story trailer with his reveal, or a little more information at least, where he's warning Liu Kang. Is like, I see what you did with the universe here. You've kind of nullified the threats that had plagued your past with your past life, but that may affect you in ways that you don't know. So he's kind of giving this warning of like, there's still going to be a looming threat. It's one of those things, I don't know if it's butterfly effect, but it's one of those things where you try and change history. Like, it has a way of reverting back or changing things the way they need to be or went back to be or make it worse. Like, it alters back, it like a rubber band effect. So we get this warning, we get his reveal, so we kind of get a little bit more glimpse into the story, which I'm excited about, and some more information there. Other than that, we did get the reveal of the combat pack. Turns out the leaks were true, so we are going to get 6 characters with this first combat pack. We're going to get Omni-Man from the Invincible series, Ermac making his return, looking spooky, looking good. Peacemaker, aka John Cena, is going to be in here. That's cool. Kind of surprised WWE allowed that, but I guess they wouldn't have to allow that because WB project. It's just going to be weird doing fatalities on Cena. Quan Chi making his return. Takeda making his return, which is awesome, from MKX. Not sure if he even fits in the timeline, saying he's Kenshi's son. And obviously, you know, kind of with the reset of the timeline, Kenshi probably doesn't have Takeda at this point, or Takeda's real young. And then we also have Homelander from The Boys on Amazon. So, first DLC pack announced there. There might have been some other characters announced. I'm just going to go through the whole roster. Once again, shout out to, whose X account am I looking at? The Realm Cast. They got a nice little roster layout thingy here. Of like base roster, cameo, stuff like that. So shout out to them for making this nice graphic. That's the word I want. So we got Johnny Cage, Kenshi, Kung Lao, Liu Kang, Raiden, Garrus, Smoke, Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Rain, Li Mei, who's also making a return, Katana, Melina, Tanya, and Baraka as your characters you can fight as. And then for your cameo fighters, we got the robots, we got Cyrax and Sector, we got another Sub-Zero, we got Scorpion, we got Kung Lao, we got Darius, Frost, Goro, Striker, Sonya Blade, Kano, and Jax. So we got some fun ones in there. Seeing the robots as cameos is great. Remember, the cameos are not going to be like canon timeline people. They're going to be just love letters to Mortal Kombat's past with the 1 through 11 titles. So we'll have to see. Obviously, there are 2 Sub-Zeros, there are 2 Scorpions, there's 2 Kung Laos. Those characters will have different histories. We know in the MK1 lore, Scorpion and Sub-Zero are brothers. I assume Smoke is also, well, he's part of the clan. I don't know if he was blood related before, but they're blood related in this one. In the past, they were just opposing clans. So we'll have old Sub-Zero, old Scorpion as cameo characters. Cyrax and Sector obviously being their robot versions. Resetting the timeline, they should be back to human, but we don't see them, obviously, at least in terms of base roster yet. Curious if we'll see them even in the story, just kind of as background characters. That would be fun to see where their journey goes. So yeah, I'm enjoying the cameo characters. We'll have to see if more of them make their main roster debut in terms of like where the news story is going with them. For example, Jax, Sonya, Kano, not on the main roster. We haven't seen them at all in trailers. So I'm curious if they will make a return or a comeback. And then, not official renders. Well, I don't know. Oh, okay. Apparently there's also potential for other cameos. But Realms Cast doesn't have like their official pictures yet. Johnny Cage, Chameleon, which I think we saw Chameleon. That might have been just in the background. Mayato, Ferrator, oh, maybe just Farah, and Tremor, which I heard rumors about Tremor too. I'm going to take those ones with a grain of salt. Maybe those guys aren't fully confirmed. I feel like someone had a screenshot of Cameo or Chameleon, but we'll see. And Shang Tsung pre-order. So yeah, rosters, shaping out. Those fatalities look brutal. We got a nice little portal one from Liu Kang yesterday. Cameos are looking great. Combos are looking fantastic. A lot of aerial combos and quicker movement compared to MK11, so I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, I mean, main thing all in all, the story is where it's at. That's what I'm looking forward to the most, is seeing how this story continues. MK9, obviously, with the reset of the timeline there. I know, another time travel story. And my personal experience, 9, 10, 11 is where I've had my history with, so I can't talk about 1 through 8. I know, sacrilege, not really. But those stories that I have played through have been fantastic. 9 with the recap, get you back in the world, and the first time loop. MKX, great, showing the next generation, Takeda, Cassie Cage, those guys. Implementing them in the story was fun. And MK11, obviously, just this love letter once again to Mortal Kombat, with the crypt being the old movie set, and then the timelines obviously crossing over here with the old cast and the new cast, or rather their old iterations. It was fun. It was exciting. Really enjoyed it, and that story was great. So, excited to see where NetherRealm takes this story. And, yeah, we'll have to see where they keep adding characters. If this graphic is correct, then like 9 more characters to go, something like that. And then if those 4 are confirmed, then 4 other cameos, but time will tell. And it seems like they've been pretty consistent with news, which is good. So just appreciate them. I think we have pre-order beta starting up later in August, which once I have the opportunity to play that, I plan on doing a podcast to talk about my experience with the beta, similar to last year or last titles. And then the game launches in September. So yeah, we're only a few months away. So glad to see we are getting news about it, and it is just pretty consistent. So yeah, short and sweet on this one, I guess. But I hope you guys are looking forward to MK1. Let me know what you're looking forward to seeing, and if any characters, stuff like that, let me know as well. Once again, fatalities look great. I'm curious what, if any other game modes they will have in there. I think they said they're going to do crypt a little bit differently. There was something else I had. I'm blanking on it. Oh, gear. I wonder if they're going to do gear again. If they do that, similar to Injustice 2 and MK11, I hope it's better than MK11's. We talked about how everything was small, really didn't mean much. Obviously, Injustice with the superhero aspect of it, a little bit easier to do with the plethora of costumes they've had in the comics and movies and animated titles, etc. MK didn't really shine, or didn't really live up to what it hoped to be, I guess. But yeah, just hope it's fun. And with the faster combos and the assist system, looks like a great time. This has been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011. Appreciate you guys hanging out today. If you guys want to catch this podcast live, you can go over to twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You can drop a follow over there, get notified when we go live, usually every Sunday with this. But you can check out the podcast, check out the live streams over there. Mean a lot to me, but if you can't catch it live, that's a-okay. Go over to YouTube, check it out over there, and podcast services. The very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video on MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, I don't think I said this at the beginning, you can support the show by liking, sharing, subscribing, recommending it to somebody you think would enjoy it, whatever it is. It may seem small, but it's helped the channel grow, and we would love and appreciate you for it. Appreciate you guys hanging out today with us, giving us a watch, giving it a listen, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.